Ferde Grofé was an American composer, arranger and pianist. During the 1920s and 1930s, he went by the name Ferdie Grofé. Early life. Born Ferdinand Rudolf von Grofé in New York City, Grofé came by his extensive musical interests naturally. Of French Huguenot extraction, his family had 4 generations of classical musicians. His father, Emil von Grofé, was a baritone who sang mainly light opera. His mother, Elsa Johanna Bierlich von Grofé, a professional cellist, was also a versatile music teacher who taught Ferde to play the violin and piano. Elsa's father, Bernhard Bierlich, was a cellist in the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra in New York, and Elsa's brother, Julius Bierlich, was first violinist and concert master of the Los Angeles Symphony. Musical education. Ferde's father died in 1899, after which his mother took Ferde abroad to study piano, viola and composition in Leipzig, Germany. Ferde became proficient on a wide range of instruments including piano, violin, viola, baritone horn, alto horn and cornet. This command of musical instruments and composition gave Ferde the foundation to become first an arranger of other composers' music and then a composer in his own right. Grofé left home at age 14 and variously worked as a milkman, truck driver, usher, newsboy, elevator operator, helper in a bookbindery, iron factory worker, and as a piano player in a bar for $2 a night and as an accompanist. He continued studying piano and violin. When he was 15, he was performing with dance bands. He also played the alto horn in brass bands. He was 17 when he wrote his first commissioned work, arranger for Paul Whiteman. Beginning about 1920, he played jazz piano with the Paul Whiteman Orchestra. He served as Whiteman's chief arranger from 1920 to 1932. He made hundreds of arrangements of popular songs, Broadway show music, and tunes of all types for Whiteman. Grofé's most memorable arrangement is that of George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, which established Grofé's reputation among jazz musicians. Grofé took what Gershwin had written for 2 pianos and orchestrated it for Whiteman's jazz orchestra. He transformed Gershwin's musical canvas with the colors and many of the creative touches for which it is so well known. He went on to create 2 more arrangements of the piece in later years. Grofé's 1942 orchestration for full orchestra of Rhapsody in Blue is the one most frequently heard today. In 1928, George Gershwin wrote a letter to ASCAP complaining that Grofé had listed himself as the composer of Rhapsody in Blue. Despite this misunderstanding, Grofé served as one of the pallbearers at Gershwin's funeral in 1937. In 1932, the New York Times called Grofé the Prime Minister of Jazz. This was an oblique reference to the fact that Whiteman was widely called King of Jazz, especially after the appearance of the 1930 film of that name which featured Whiteman's music. During this time, Grofé also recorded piano rolls for the American Piano Company in New York. These captured performances were embellished with additional notes after the initial recording took place to attempt to convey the thick, lush nature of his orchestra's style. Hence the published rolls are marked, played by Ferde Grofé. Not everybody appreciated Grofé's flowery arrangements during this time. In a review of a Whiteman jazz concert in New York, one writer said the music was expected to be pleasing, and it proved so when it was repeated last night, in spite of the excessive instrumentation of Ferde Grofé. A writer of a later generation said the Grofé and Gould pieces were the essence of slick commercialism. Radio, conducting and teaching. Mardi Gras was recorded in the radio transcription series Shilkray Novelties in 1931, and again by Nathaniel Shilkray in RCA Victor's transcription. series His Majesty's Voice of the Air in 1932. On the Trail was also recorded in the His Majesty's Voice of the Air transcriptions. During the 1930s, he was the orchestra leader on several radio programs, including Fred Allen's show and his own The Ferde Grofé Show. The On the Trail segment of Grand Canyon Suite was used for many years as the musical signature for radio programs sponsored by Philip Morris Cigarettes, beginning with the 1933 program featuring Grofé and his orchestra. Jon Hendricks wrote lyrics for On the Trail, and the song was recorded for Hendricks' album To Tell the Truth. The piano version sheet music of the suite includes lyrics to the central section of On the Trail by songwriter Gus Kahn. Several times he conducted orchestral programs in New York's Carnegie Hall. In January 1933, the premiere of his tabloid, An Orchestral Suite in 4 Movements, was presented in Carnegie Hall. In 1937, he conducted a concert tribute to George Gershwin at Lewiston Stadium. The turnout was the largest in that stadium's history. In 1934, Grofé announced that he was working on an opera to be based on the Edgar Allan Poe story The Fall of the House of Usher. In 1943, he was a guest on Paul Whiteman Presents. In 1944, he was a panelist on A Song Is Born radio show, judging the works of unknown composers. Before that time he had served several times as judge or co-judge in musical contests. Grofé was later employed as a conductor and faculty member at the Juilliard School of Music, where he taught orchestration. Grofé's compositions. In addition to being an arranger, Grofé was also a composer in his own right. While still with Whiteman, in 1925, he wrote Mississippi Suite, which Whiteman recorded in shortened format in 1927. He wrote a number of other pieces, including a theme for the New York World's Fair of 1939 and suites for Niagara Falls and the Hudson River, possibly as a result of his World's Fair theme. The 13th of October 1940 was designated Ferde Grofé Day at the American Pavilion of the World's Fair. Grofé conducted his Niagara Falls suite as part of the ceremony marking the opening of the first stage of the Niagara Falls Power Generation project. Other notable compositions by Grofé were the Death Valley Suite, on a music production about Mark Twain. The Death Valley Suite is a short symphonic suite written by Ferde Grofé in 1949, depicting the westward travels of pioneers through the harsh lands of Death Valley in California. Grofé was commissioned by the Death Valley 49ers, a non-profit organization devoted to preserving pioneering and mining history of the Death Valley region, encompassing Death Valley National Monument and surrounding area. The composition and music was part of a pageant performed on December 3, 1949, celebrating the 100th anniversary of the 49ers, who came by way of Death Valley in search of gold and other riches in celebration of the California State Centennial. The 1949 pageant setting was outdoors at Desolation Canyon in Death Valley. Grofé was the conductor and actor James Stewart was the narrator. In 1960, work was announced on a musical production based on the life of Mark Twain. The music was first assigned to Victor Young, but Grofé was later brought in to complete the work. Grofé is best known for his composition of the Grand Canyon Suite, a work regarded highly enough to be recorded for RCA Victor with the NBC Symphony conducted by Arturo Toscanini. The earlier Mississippi Suite along with the later Death Valley Suite are occasionally performed and are recorded. Grofé conducted the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra in his Grand Canyon Suite and his piano concerto for Everest Records in 1960. The recording was digitally remastered and issued on CD in 1997. In 1958, Walt Disney released a live-action short subject based on the suite and using its music. The 30-minute Technicolor film, entitled Grand Canyon, used no actors or dialogue, simply shots of the Grand Canyon itself and several animals around the area, all shown with Grofé's music accompanying the visuals. The short won an Academy Award for Best Live-Action Short Subject, and was shown as a featurette accompanying Disney's 1959 Sleeping Beauty films. He began his second career as composer of film scores in 1930, when he provided arrangements for the film King of Jazz. Published data for this movie do not list Grofé as the score's composer. However, he is also credited with the film's score for the 1930 movie Redemption. A review for the 1944 Joseph Lewis film Minstrel Man stated, "The music, scored by Ferde Grofé, is an outstanding item." Grofé was nominated, along with Leo Urdidi, for an Academy Award in the category Scoring of a Musical Picture for this film. The score he composed for Rocket Ship XM was the first science fiction movie to feature the electronic instrument known as the theremin. His other original film scores included Early to Bed, Redemption, Diamond Jim, Time Out of Mind and The Return of Jesse James. Personal life. Although he spent the first half of his life living in New Jersey and working in and around New York City, by 1945 he had moved to Los Angeles full-time. In 1945 he also sold his Teaneck, New Jersey, home. Grofé married his first wife, Mildred Grisel, a singer, in 1916, and divorced in 1928. In May 1951, he filed for divorce in Las Vegas, Nevada, from his second wife, Ruth, whom he married in 1929. The day after the divorce was granted, he married his third wife, Anna Mae Lampton. Ferde Grofé died in Santa Monica, California, on the 3rd of April 1972, at age 80, and was buried in the mausoleum of the Golden West at the Inglewood Park Cemetery in Inglewood, California. He left 4 children, Ferdinand Rudolph Jr., and Robert and Delight, all of the Los Angeles area. Compositions. Grofé composed a large number of works in a variety of styles, commonly in symphonic jazz, orchestral works, Broadway at Night, Mississippi Suite, theme and variations on Noises from a Garage, 3 Shades of Blue, Metropolis, A Fantasy in Blue, Free Air, Grand Canyon Suite, Canute Rockner toned poem. Rip Van Winkle. Grofé worked on this toned poem for over 2 decades, before starting over and reworking the thematic material into the Hudson River Suite, Tabloid Suite, 4 Pictures of a Modern Newspaper, A Day at the Farm, for orchestra, Madison Square Garden Suite, Christmas Eve, for orchestra, Jungle Ballet, Rudy Valley Suite, Ode to Freedom, for orchestra, Yankee Doodle Rhapsody film score, Café Society, a ballet score rediscovered and re-premiered in 2010, Tin Pan Alley, The Melodic Decades, Killarney, Irish Fantasy for orchestra, Kentucky Derby Suite, Trilon and Perisphere, 1 movement tone poem, The New York World's Fair of 1939-40. Wheels, for orchestra, dedicated to the Ford Dealers of America, an American biography, for orchestra, about the life of and dedicated to Henry Ford. 6 Pictures of Hollywood, also known as the Hollywood Suite, reworked thematic material from his earlier Hollywood ballet, Ode to the Star-Spangled Banner, for orchestra, first performance of autograph score given in 2014. Blue Flame, Over the Fantasy, also known as the Ode to the American Soldier, Uncle Sam Stands Up, a patriotic cantata based on a text by Ben Hecht, for baritone solo, chorus, and orchestra. Billy the Kid, unfinished and unpublished. Some of this material may have been used in his score for the movie The Return of Jesse James. Aviation Suite, A Symphony in Steel, Deep Nocturne for Orchestra, Death Valley Suite, Blue Fantasy in B-flat, Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, March for Americans, Halloween Fantasy for Strings also known as Trick-or-Treat for Orchestra, Atlantic Crossing a tone poem for orchestra, chorus with both male and female narrators, Hudson River Suite, Dawn at Lake Mead for orchestra, Valley of the Sun Suite, Yellowstone Suite, San Francisco Suite, Niagara Falls Suite, World's Fair Suite, Hawaiian Suite, Requiem for a Ghost Town, Concertos Saxophone Concerto and finished, unpublished work written for Cecil Leeson, Concerto for Piano and Orchestra in D Major, a long one-movement concerto Grofé had been working on since 1931. Ballets Tabloid Ballet, Jungle Ballet written at the request of Dmitri Tiomkin. Hollywood Ballet, later rearranged and rescored and released as the Hollywood Suite. Café Society, a ballet score rediscovered and re-premiered in 2010. Movie scores, early to bed silent film score. The jazz singer-arranger, probable contributing composer. Redemption, Diamond Jim, Yankee Doodle Rhapsody short film score. Minstrel Man nominated for a Academy Award. Time Out of Mind rejected score. Rocket Ship XM, The Return of Jesse James, A Christmas Story. Several movements of the Grand Canyon Suite were used in the film score. Works for concert band The Grand Reunion March, his first commissioned work for an Elks Club convention in Los Angeles. Scalawag, Valley of Enchantment Suite, chamber music and solo works for Rags for Piano. Grofé's first compositions, written at the age of 14. I. Harlem. 2. Rattlesnake. 3. Persimmon. IV. Hobble. Souvenir for solo cello, written for Grofé's grandfather. Evening Shadows for solo piano. Wonderful One for female vocalist and piano. Table Dot for flute, violin and viola. Sonata for flute and bicycle pump. Hot Lips popular song. Miss Mischief for piano, dedicated to Shirley Temple. Diana for solo saxophone and piano. Templed Hills popular song. The Valsan for solo saxophone and piano. Galidoro's Serenade for saxophone and piano, written for the virtuoso Al Galidoro. Lonely Castle for solo flute. Christine for cello and piano. Sequoia for flute, oboe and strings. His soundtrack to the 1950 science fiction film Rocket Ship XM included the use of the theremin. His monumental Grand Canyon Suite is his best-known work, a masterpiece in orchestration and evocation of mood and location. Since 2010, the scores Requiem for a Ghost Town, the Ballet Café Society and the Ode to the Star-Spangled Banner have been performed in newly published musicological scores based on the manuscripts on file with the Library of Congress. Selected discography. Grofé's Grand Canyon Suite performed by the NBC Symphony, conducted by Arturo Toscanini, on LP and on the recently out-of-print CD. It is coupled with works by George Gershwin and Samuel Barber and John Philip Sousa. Grofé's Grand Canyon Suite and Mississippi Suite performed by the Eastman Rochester Orchestra, conducted by Howard Hanson, recorded for Mercury Records in May 1958, reissued on CD in 1995, coupled with the Cello Concerto No. 2 in E minor Op. 30 by Victor Herbert, with George Michael, cello. Grofé's Grand Canyon Suite performed by the New York Philharmonic, conducted by Leonard Bernstein, coupled with Bernstein conducting Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue and An American in Paris. Grofé's Grand Canyon Suite performed by the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Antal Dorosha, coupled with Dorati conducting Gershwin's Porgy and Bess, a symphonic picture. Symphonic Jazz. Grofé and Gershwin, performed by the Harmony Ensemble, New York, conducted by Stephen Richman, playing Grofé's Mississippi Suite. Gershwin's Second Rhapsody for orchestra with piano, arranged by Grofé, with Lincoln Mayorga on the piano. Grofé's Galidoro's Serenade for saxophone and piano, with Al Galidoro on alto saxophone and Mayorga on piano. Grofé's Grand Canyon Suite. Grofé's Grand Canyon Suite and Concerto for piano and orchestra with the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra, conducted by Grofé. Out of print Everest LP, reissued on CD in 1997. Grofé's Grand Canyon Suite, performed by the Boston Pops Orchestra, conducted by Arthur Fiedler.